Hey, honey,
Yes, Barry?
let's get out of here.
Where are we going?
Where do we always go?
Fascina el viento, este ritmo de palmas, sin ti naturaleza, hasta encontrar la playa. Por eso grito al mundo, yo soy de Puerto Vallarta. Samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de arrullo en el mar. Samba de Puerto Vallarta.
Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. I'm your host, Barry Kessler, and I'm just so happy to be introducing you to my favorite vacation destination. Hey, maybe it's even yours, and that's Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. That music you're listening to is performed by Alberto Perez, and Alberto is the owner of the Lapa Lapa group of restaurants here. Those are the Lapa Lapa, Puerto Vallarta's oldest restaurant on the famous Los Muertos Beach, and the El Dorado Restaurant Beach Club right next door. So you can enjoy that fantastic view of the Los Muertos Pier, all lit up at night in beautiful colors, or during the day in its grand splendor, for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, seated with your toes in the sand right at the water's edge. It's so romantic. It's so Puerto Vallarta, my friends. This week we are going to go to a casa hogar. It's an orphanage, basically a shelter for babies and young kids. It is called RISE, Refugio Infantil Santa Esperanza. But before we get to RISE, let's find out what's happening this week in Puerto Vallarta, the 1st of July, 2019. I have a little update on the Rio Horcones situation. There was a meeting last Friday in Puerto Vallarta, right outside of City Hall, regarding the proposed hydroelectric dam on the Rio Horcones. If you don't know what that is, it's a river that empties into the ocean over in Boca de Tomatlan, which is about 17 kilometers south of Puerto Vallarta. The meeting was well attended by opponents of the dam. I have pictures in the show notes. I've also been told that there is an ongoing investigation by those who want to know what's going on. They want to know who actually is going to be benefiting from this dam and who is behind the project. I mean, you know, this is the mystery, right? Nobody even knows. Talk about transparency. You're joking, right? Anyway, I have a link once again to the petition that's being signed and sent over to Mexican President Obrador. I've got it over in the show notes. I also have some other interesting graphics and a rendering of what some people fear Boca de Tomatlan might look like without 6 months of water running through it during the year. And it's pretty frightening. I have that as well in the show notes. And next week I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. I'm going to create a page on my website that will be dedicated to this hydroelectric proposed dam. Now, if you're in town on July 5th, this coming Friday, there's going to be a screening of Solitary. Solitary was awarded in several film festivals around the U.S. and in Europe. The score is by Roger Taylor, who was a former drummer for Queen, and it was written and starred in by Catherine Lee McEwen, who will also be at the screening. And my friend Alberto Sosa told me about this event. He and Catherine are good friends. The event starts at 6 p.m., and it's on the Quale Island over in the Cultural Center. It's going to be in the auditorium. It's all the way in the back, of the island. Entry is free, and a nice time to meet some like-minded people if you're in town. The third annual Mango Festival in Puerto Vallarta will take place on Saturday, July the 6th, the following day. It starts at 4 p.m. It's going to be over in Lazaro Cardenas Park. which of course is located in the romantic zone. It is Parque de los Azulejos for those in the know. And of course, it's just a block away from Los Muertos Beach. The event is organized by the Instituto Vallartenses de Cultura y el Comité de Ciudades Hermanas de Highland Park. They're going to include live entertainment. There's going to be more than 15 restaurants participating, showing off their gastronomical delights and refreshing drinks. All of this made with mangoes as the base, and it will allow you to savor one of the sweetest fruits of the season, and those fruits are really going to town in Puerto Vallarta. The celebration is going to be open to the public, like a typical Mexican outdoor fair. There's going to be tickets to purchase. The cost is 25 pesos. That's just a little over $1, folks, and you can exchange that for food and or drinks. It's important to highlight that the funds being collected will be there to benefit different projects that are focused on child development, such as Desembocarte, which is located in La Desembocada in Jalisco, and Los Fridos in the neighborhood Educación of Puerto Vallarta. These two organizations promote art and cultural activities. And so there you go. If you're in town, check out the Mango Festival. It'll be great. Now, I got a couple of emails from our friend Skip from Minnesota. Although I'm guessing that this time of year is probably not so cold. But anyway, he wrote me before he took his trip in February. And I told you guys I was late getting to some of these emails, right? But I'm going to give you a rundown on a thread that we went back and forth with. It's very interesting and has lots of really good information. So here it goes. Here it goes from Skip. Barry, I'm writing you to tell you how much I enjoyed your recent podcast with your trip to San Sebastián del Oeste. Well, that was a long time ago. See, it's been a long time. Okay, both the town and the restaurant Montebello sound delightful, and I can't wait to visit there during my month-long stay in Bucerias in February. Well, I had planned to hire a private driver, Jose, the guy that you interviewed and hired for your trip into the mountains. My brother-in-law wants to drive around the area in a rental car. Back in an earlier podcast of yours called Taking Public Buses in Puerto Vallarta, JR had recommended Gecko Rentals in Bucerias for those who felt the need to rent an automobile. If we do decide to rent an auto, it will be at Gecko in Bucerias, and I will send you a review. It turns out that Gecko has a very well-written travel guide that you may want to share with your listeners, available for a download at, and then he gives me the link. Thank you, Barry, for all the entertaining and enlightening podcasts that you do. Skip from Minnesota. So I thank Skip for that information, and that travel guide, he is right. It's really great. So I have a link to that in the show notes too. But then I wanted to know how his trip went. So after February, I sent him an email and asked him, and he returned the email and said, "Hola, Barry. As things turned out, we did not rent a car this past February, but we opted for Ubers and public transportation. I took an ETN bus to Guadalajara, and we spent a couple of days there exploring the Centro Histórico and the Mercado Libertad San Juan de Dios. I had a great time in Guadalajara and already am planning the next year's big city adventure during our month in the Bahía de Banderas with a trip to Mexico City. Our proximity to La Cruz de Guanajuatzle allowed me to buy a lot of seafood at the huge Mercado del Mar in La Cruz. Although the shrimp is not local from the bay, we bought a lot of it, along with huachinango, which is a red snapper, atún, and dorado. At about $5 US per pound, the spiny lobster was a great treat. The huge Sunday market in La Cruz is very popular with Canadians and United Staters. Although I felt the prices were high, there's a lot to look at there. The food stalls are phenomenal, and I urge you to consider doing some interviews in a podcast there. I had an opportunity on the Malecon in Puerto Vallarta to meet the Candyman, Salvador Estrada, and had a nice visit, as well as adding 100 pesos to his marathon fund. He was so appreciative, and he spoke very highly of you. I also visited with Gil Gevins over at Lucy's Cuckoo Cabana and talked about his books and about their business. He is a very entertaining person. I used Uber a lot, going from Bucerias to points around the bay, including Punta de Mita, La Cruz de Guanajuato, and Puerto Vallarta. I was very pleased with the low, consistent prices from the drivers, as well as their quality vehicles. We even took an Uber to El Pitial, where we spent a morning in the beautiful church and enjoyed a great lunch and some churros. By the way, you guys, we're going to be going to El Pitial pretty soon. That's going to be a fun little trip. Anyway, getting back to his email, in addition, we used the ATM bus to and from Bucerias as well. And we also used the combis, which generally charge the same prices as buses, but are considerably more comfortable for a gringo with long legs. I really enjoyed the taco episode that you did a couple weeks ago. I would say that I consider you a master of tacos, but the research seemed more like a PhD dissertation. Keep up the great work. Your research is much appreciated by your listeners. Skip. So I was really surprised to hear that Skip was actually able to summon an Uber from Nayarit. Really? And I thought that Uber only dropped you off in Nuevo Vallarta. So anyway, I didn't realize they picked up there, so I emailed him back and I asked, did you really get an Uber to come pick you up in Nuevo? And he said, Barry, Uber worked very well in Bucerias back in February, and we used it going to and from La Cruz and into PV as well. There seems to be a shortage of Uber drivers there in Nayarit, so waiting 10 to 15 minutes for a pickup and occasionally having a driver cancel my pickup was typical. On more than 24 Uber rides, I became acquainted with several drivers who picked us up repeatedly. The Uber rate was so low that I tipped all my Uber drivers an extra 10 pesos via the Uber app. Since gasoline is now over 21 pesos per liter, I'm certain that the extra pesos are needed and appreciated. Taxi rates in Bucerias vary widely from 50% more than an Uber to, get this, 200% more, depending on location, demand, time of day, and the mood of the taxista. I really appreciate Uber drivers in the Bahias de Banderas. I also used Uber in Guadalajara, where the taxi rates are much lower than in Banderas Bay, and it worked well, saving a third to half on the rides versus those by taxi. I also appreciate the much nicer and newer vehicles than the taxi drivers that we rode with. I walked a block from our hotel before ordering my Uber ride to avoid subjecting my Uber driver to any issues with taxi drivers. I enjoyed the Airbnb episode. Keep up the good work and enjoy La Cruz de Guanajuato. Skip. So wow, you learn something new every day. So I checked on my app, and sure enough, they actually do pick up in Nuevo. I'm sure not legally. Don't tell anybody. All right. Anyway, do what you do normally, like I tell you to do. If you do summon one of these up in Nuevo or anywhere else, these Uber drivers, don't stand near a taxi stand when you call one. Don't be near a busy restaurant. Don't be on a street that dead ends into the Malecon. Don't be standing in front of your hotel or your resort. You need to move away from there because the taxis are there. They're waiting to give you a ride. I actually had a situation where I was waiting for my Uber. The last time I was in town, I was standing there with a bunch of luggage, and a bunch of taxi drivers kept stopping and asking me if I wanted a ride. And I was a little bit nervous for my Uber for when he finally showed up and picked me up. So once again, be careful and be aware that your Uber driver is your friend. Don't make it hard on him, okay? Now, speaking of crossing state lines into Nuevo, I got a report that the authorities were asking drivers and folks that were crossing into and out of Nayarit for proof of their immigration status in Mexico. So what I'm getting to is that if you are a vacationer and you're visiting here for less than 180 days, you have that tourist card, you have that FMM card that you fill out when you come on the plane. And it gets stamped, and then they take a part of it and they shove it back into your passport, and you're supposed to present that on when you leave the country. And of course, there's a fine. I think it's like 25 or 30 bucks, or maybe even 50 bucks. I don't know. But if you lose that FMM card when you're leaving the country, you get fined for that. So, but what they're asking you to do is keep a copy. You should keep now a copy of that FMM card with you, along with your black and white copy of your passport and of your driver's license. Remember, we talk about the fact that you don't want to carry your passport with you. You don't necessarily want to carry your driver's license with you. And you want to make copies of them, do it in black and white, because as I've told you before, if you do it in color, the authorities seem to think that you are involved in some sort of fraud. So black and white copies, and that's for your FMM card as well. Now, if you are a resident, temporary or permanente, you should be able to show your card. You should have that. If you don't, make a black and white copy of it for sure and carry that around for you just in case you get stopped or asked for it when you're crossing state lines. It's not permanent. It doesn't happen all the time, but it just happened not too long ago. So it's just something to add to the things that we need to pay attention to and we need to do when we're traveling around in Puerto Vallarta. If you don't plan on leaving the state, I imagine that you should be okay without having to carry that around, but why take the chance, right? All right, let's get to our interviews, shall we? Now, Mexico is a lovely country. Many of us are just so appreciative of the welcome and of the wonderful people in Puerto Vallarta. Vallartenses are just so friendly. They're friendly and they're always willing to help, but lots of times we see poverty. We see low living standards. We see wages that are just, unbelievably low, right? And we all want to help. We all want to give back in some way. And as we've mentioned before in the past, there's many, many charities in Puerto Vallarta. There's dog rescues galore. There's children rescues too. And I've taken you to a local Vallarta orphanage before. It's called Corazon de Niña. And it was some time ago that we went there. And during our conversation that we had with Melissa Cano at the time, talked about this. We talked about this with JR too. How really there aren't orphans in Puerto Vallarta. That these families that are these Mexican families are big, and if there wasn't a mom or if there wasn't a dad, then other family members would step in and take the child who was truly without a mom or dad. The family units in Mexico are big. They're vast. So these homes, they're not orphanages per se. They are places for children who are at risk. We're going to talk a lot about that with our guests as we come to them. Now, not too far from the hustle and bustle of the romantic zone, there is a place called RISE. It's Refugio Infantil Santa Esperanza. Refugio Infantil stands for Children's Shelter, and Santa Esperanza, of course, is the name of the shelter. If you go straight up into the romantic zone, and just past the romantic zone, up into the neighborhoods, you will finally run into Colonia Benito Juarez. I have a map in the show notes, of course, and we are going to introduce you to our first guests. They are Lisa Manugian and Billy Pulaski. And they are from the States, and, I'm going to let them tell you their story, of course. But they were just so kind. They were wonderful people. They were in touch with me. They set up the interview. They are just so giving of their time, and I can't wait to introduce you to them and for you to hear their stories. And I hope that by listening to them, that you might even decide to give a little back, even, a lot back of your time, of course, to this fine institution. So let's go right now through the Benito Juarez neighborhood in Puerto Vallarta, and let's visit with Lisa and Billy over at the Casa Hogar Rise, Refugio Infantil Santa Esperanza. Lisa and Memo, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks. Great to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourselves. Where are you from, and what was your path that led you guys to Puerto Vallarta?
Well, we retired in January of 2018. We're originally from Chicago. Been married about 10 years, and we came down to Puerto Vallarta for a couple years on vacation. When we did retire in 2018, we started looking for volunteer opportunities in Puerto Vallarta and came across Rise. We found that through the Everything You Want to Know About Puerto Vallarta website on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And so we came here, got trained by Lisa LaFontaine, and she thought we would be our best fit here would be to teach the toddlers English. And so we've been doing that for about the last year and a half, trying to teach the toddlers English, anywhere from year and a half to 6 years old.
Wow. All right. So this retirement thing, it sounds like you needed something to do, right?
Exactly. We both came from, busy careers, and Mema was in the restaurant business. I was in sales, high pressure environment and stressful. And we looked at each other. What are we doing? Neither of us had children in our lives. And we thought, well, it's time to do something different. And we sold everything, including furniture, and came down here and started renting a place and found Rise and fell in love with the kids and the family that's here and have been coming ever since.
Wow. Okay, so I'm imagining that you have visited Puerto Vallarta many times before. So this was not something like, let's just go to Mexico and throw a dart at a map and then you're there. You thought this out a little bit, right?
We did. We've come down here for about the past 5 or 6 years, really just to vacation for short periods of time, 4 or 5 days off of work or squeeze in a long weekend. But then when we decided to come down, we wanted to give back. So we started again looking for that volunteer opportunity.
Was there anything specific other than was there a reason that you went to an orphanage?
Oh, for sure. For me, I did want to. There's so many charities here in Puerto Vallarta. Maybe we, were asked to work in the information tourist. We need volunteers and the dog walking program and lots
shelters.
Lots of animal. But I really wanted to be able to touch children's lives and try to. I feel like it's more passionate for me. Especially we didn't have children. We have 18 nieces and nephews, and we feel like we've influenced them to as most as we could. And then we thought, well, maybe we could do some good with some children here. And so it's been super rewarding, and they're like our little family.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. All right. So what do you do here? You teach. You say you're teaching English. So how are your Spanish skills? Do you have to know Spanish to teach English?
Well, we're working on our Spanish skills, but we knew very little Spanish when we first got here. And the idea with the toddlers is they know some Spanish already. They don't know any English. So we were we have to kind of force ourselves to only speak English. And so,
oh, really?
We're trying to teach them shapes and colors and numbers. we've lived here now permanently for about the past 6 months or 7 months, and so we've picked up a lot of Spanish, and so disciplinary wise, we use a little bit of Spanish when they're not listening to us.
Right, get their attention.
Get their attention, right? So, but for the most part, we want to just be speaking in English.
It looks like we got a whole group of kids coming back from school.
Hola.
Hi guys, hola.
Hi, Steph. Jonathan, Marlene. Naomi. Hey, what's happening, man? How you doing? Give me the head, Mom. Okay.
All right. Is that practice for soccer? Is that what that is? A little soccer practice?
Okay. We gotta get a little. This. Elbow. Okay. All right.
All right. Excellent. Oh, I'm not allowed to take pictures of these kids. These are the cutest kids you ever saw in your whole life. Okay, that's all I'm going to tell you right now. All right, now let's get back to this. We're talking about teaching English. So you're teaching them shapes. You're teaching them numbers.
We're trying to teach them phrases too. Hello, nice to meet you. We were teaching them I want, I have, she has, he has, over prepositions like over, under, in, out. Like we're just trying simple things. And then for sure, lots of objects, chair, house, all of those type of things. So we're just, teaching, and candidly, neither of us have a teaching background, right?
Right, sure.
So we're on the internet. There's such great information out there. So we do that, and there's a good rotation as we talk. You'll learn some of these children go back to their families, as Madre mentioned. That they come here for various reasons. Some for a short period of time, some for longer. But so as you get new children, you kind of restart, and we've just had a 2-year-old come in, or a 1.5-year-old. She's been here, but wasn't old enough to come to class. So sometimes, we go back to shapes and we go back to some of the basics, and then we try to continue on. We read them books. It was so cute last year, and even this year we would read, Brown Bear. And during playtime, which is non-structured English, one of the little girls, she might have been 4 or 5 years old, picked up the book to play time with her little classmate, and she's reading the book to her, brown bear, what do you see? I see a red fox looking at me. We almost teared up. I mean, it's like, wow, it's really working. So it's just been really great stuff, and that's, how we go about teaching them, through activities, through books, through conversation, phrases and things like that.
Wow.
Yeah, I would say a typical day for us is we start out with some music in English, try to get the wiggles out a little bit. Then we would go through and again teach them some prepositions or colors. We read books to them. We probably sing a couple more songs, and then we always end the English portion with some type of craft project. So we're trying to teach them how to cut, and and colors, and using glue and staplers, and tying things, and wiki sticks and pipe cleaners, but every day, if you look up here, all these are kind of some of the projects that we've done with them, and so it's a structured day for them, and then we do that for an hour and a half, and then they have an hour and a half of playtime where we're still speaking English to them. But they have a playroom that they can kind of pretty much do whatever they want. They can dress up. They can have building blocks. A lot of just great, interaction with them. So
okay. So what other volunteers do they have here other than people speaking English or teaching them English, or what other things can a volunteer do here?
So volunteers, first off, we need volunteers. So don't think that we have too many. We definitely need consistent year-round volunteers, because it just gives the children a lot more comfort. The types of things that people can contribute to is helping the children that we just saw come in, help them with their homework after school. teach them games, play soccer with them, be a friend, teach them music, conduct art. We have some volunteers that come in that teach art, which is great, but we never have enough of any of that. And as Madre said, volunteers, we will run errands. Sometimes they didn't have formula for, we have an infant here. We'll we'll do that on their behalf. So there's so many things you can do here. And I just can't talk enough about how people should take the time and volunteer, even if it's one day a week and it's consistent. It's so appreciated.
So you would say that consistency is probably a key, right? I mean, if you're going to come, if it's just going to be one day a week, you should try to make it that one day a week,
yes.
Right?
But you know what? Somebody who's here for a week who wants to come and really hang out with the kids after school and maybe practice their Spanish with the kids, there's a lot of different things that people can do here with the older kids. Again, we're trying to teach the toddlers, but we also have a great relationship with the older kids.
Excellent. What do you need most here, other than volunteers? Is it volunteers? What do you think?
Well, I think you hit on it. We may have talked about it a little earlier, but the education. I'm going to tangent a little. So RISE was formed to get children off the street, right, and to give them a loving environment. They may have been in an unsafe home. They may have been brought here through what's equivalent in the States to social services, but they have been brought here, and maybe even by their parents, because they're going through some troubled times. So we've got the children here, and so what we determined was we need to get them educated, right? So initially give them a loving environment, safe, protect them. But now, we're in the year 2019, on our way to 2020. These children need to learn. They need to be educated. They need to learn English, because when they do get out in the world's different, right, than it was 18 years ago. Yeah. So we have a major effort. It's called Revolution Through Education, where we started raising money specifically kind of around education, or to support the education initiative. And we've done a great job. That education initiative is about $40,000 a year. The operations end of it here is about $100,000 a year. So we've got, both of those needs that need to be met. So
right. Money's big.
Long answer to your question. Money would be a great contribution.
Money and volunteers.
Money and volunteers.
Yeah, that education piece is, I think, as Madre said earlier, this is their first year that they've been in private school. So, and it was through the Revolution Through Education program that we raised that money specifically that was earmarked for, for their education. So that'll be ongoing.
Yeah.
And that helps pay for some of the things that are, when we talk about the estimated amount, we're trying to include the uniforms, the shoes, all of that.
Right.
So
it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are ways that you can, I guess you could subscribe and give monthly donations and stuff like that, and that's all. I'm pretty sure you can find that on the website, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And just to be clear, it's the risepv.com website.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'll make sure, and I'll have a link to the risepvwebsite.com in my show notes. Don't go to my show notes. You'll find them there. All right, so people get involved, obviously, by maybe sending an email. Do they make a call? Do they show up at the door? What do they do?
Probably all of that. But probably the most common is, we've gotten a little more structured from a standpoint. There is a woman named Lisa LaFontaine who we happened to meet last year, and how we got involved. She no longer is on site. She's gone back to Seattle to work. And she still manages a Facebook page for volunteers. And every Saturday, she asks, what's your availability? She'll post things like, we need people for the monthly birthday party, or we need people for the, baby turtle release, outing that we're taking them on. But on a weekly basis, it's when are you available to come for these slotted times when we're teaching English, or there's playtime or homework.
Right. Yeah. So I think the volunteer times are kind of structured, and it's kind of all coordinated through that Facebook page.
Okay,
yes.
so I'll have a link to that as well. And what's the name of that Facebook page again?
I think Rise Volunteers.
Rise Volunteers.
Okay,
yes.
I'll have a link to that, and that's great. That's a good way to get it done. All right, let's leave Rise just for a minute. We'll come back. Let's talk about Puerto Vallarta. What are the things that someone has to see when they come to Puerto Vallarta, other than coming to Rise?
Well, of course, Puerto Vallarta, I think, is known for its beautiful beaches. One of our favorites is the Las Animas, or the Boca to Las Animas hike. So there's a lot of great hiking here. We like the waterfall in Camixto. Yalapa Beach is very beautiful, and there's a waterfall there as well. I think the restaurants here are top of the line. If you like Italian, believe it or not, there's some great Italian restaurants here. Of course, we love the local street tacos. Kind of the true Mexican food. And it's not for everybody, but it's we think that's just some of the best food that there is here.
I would add that I think the best thing to see is the culture. Like, don't come down here and want America or Canada, because you can get that, by the way. But I think the best thing to do is see the actual culture. Walk, take the bus, do things that the people here do, eat at the taco stands, do all of those things. That's Puerto Vallarta to me. And then you get to see all the beautiful beaches, and all of that goes along with it. But I think to really emphasize where you are and have a true experience, I would definitely, walk beyond the perimeters of the tourist area, which all has, great restaurants and food, but step outside of your boundaries and have a good experience. Rise can be part of it, because we're not in the tourist area, and that's been a great story, or a great experience. And here's a funny story, is that when we first came, like one of our very first trips here, we walked up to a place called Repollo Rojo, which is right down the street, Red Cabbage. It's a great little off-the-beaten-path restaurant. But when we came, we thought, oh, my gosh, where are we? Oh, my gosh, what are we doing? Should we be here? And lo and behold, we walk by it every day to come to Rise, and we laugh to ourselves, and we thought we were really out of our comfort zone.
Deep in the neighborhood.
And we laugh about it every day. And I just think that's all what makes our experience here in Puerto Vallarta even more special.
Excellent. All right, so let's go over, we talked a little bit about taco stands and how you like to, eat with the locals. That's cool, but let's talk about your favorite Puerto Vallarta restaurants, because everybody that listens to my show knows that these are all these must-answer questions by my guests. If they don't answer these questions, I kick them off. So, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, what are your favorites? I got two different opinions, so I can get, this is a twofer. I like this.
So I'm going to say breakfast is going to be Cuantas y Cuentes, which is right on the beach, right by the pier. Lunch.
Why?
Authentic. It's right in the middle of the action. It's Puerto Vallarta.
What do you eat?
Fajitas
For breakfast? You have fajitas
Oh, sorry,
for breakfast?
sorry, for breakfast.
All right, just
for
okay.
breakfast.
You
Yes,
went right to
yes,
lunch or
yeah.
dinner.
I didn't go.
Oh,
to
okay.
lunch
No,
or
you went
dinner.
right to lunch and dinner? Okay, good. All right, never mind then. All right. All right.
No, but you know,
what do you eat when you, what do
we-
you eat? You like the fajitas?
The divorciado eggs.
Okay.
Are with a little red and green sauce are really good there. That's probably my go-to. My go-to meal.
Okay. All
So
right.
there. For lunch, I'm going to say Salud, which is a super healthy. They've got smoothies and quinoa bowls, but just a super healthy kind of a light, great salads, wraps, super healthy light meal to eat for lunch, and then for dinner, I'm going to have to say my favorite would be Barcelona tapas, and it got great paella, and the view is outstanding. So those would be my top three.
Excellent.
Hopefully, I didn't
All right.
steal all yours.
All right, Lisa.
Well, it's hard. There are so many great places, and it just varies depending on what you want. But my favorite breakfast place is, I think it's pronounced La Terranza. It's near where we live, which is across kind of by Hotel Tropicana in the Romantic Zone. It's just small. I like kind of small places. So, and they have awesome variety of breakfast. And one of my favorite things on that menu is they have a cinnamon roll French toast, which oh my gosh, how decadent can you get? So that's awesome. Lunch, we like to go because we usually work here every morning. And so on our way home, we pass Balam Balam, which is a little, Antonio was there. He used to have a bigger restaurant in town, but it's a taco stand. But it's mostly all fish. He just does an awesome job, and he's so nice and so interesting to get to know. Like, he's lived in L.A. and he grew San Francisco, but he grew up as a fisherman here in Puerto Vallarta with, when it was nothing. And he is super interesting.
I gotta go talk to
You
him.
got to talk to him. He is super
Balam,
interesting.
okay.
Yeah, Balam
He's
Balam.
he's like right along the river, right?
Yes.
Right at Cardenas and the river.
All right, cool.
All right, and then my for dinner, the only negative is it closes at 7, so you got to get out early. But is Los Lirios, and I don't know if you've been there, but that's a woman has turned her home into a restaurant, so you just eat on the porch. And I want to say that is on Aguacate,
Aguacate,
and Basilio Badillo, like right going south when you turn on Aguacate.
Right by Medicist Hospital.
I just live. I don't eat meat, so
Okay.
So
it's
I
all the
love
fish.
seafood or
Okay.
chicken, and so. But they have phenomenal seafood as well. So those are my favorite, and they're more local. Not that I do love Joe Jack's, but I'm trying to not name those.
Thank
Yes.
you, thank you. I love Joe Jack's too, but
Yeah.
that's okay. I like the local flavor
Yeah.
we're getting here. This is good. If you were going to leave town just for a day and come back, where would you go?
Well, that's an interesting question because we always say that we're going to go
We never
some
go
places,
anywhere.
but I will say a little town that we visited just on a day trip was called El Tuito, and we were there on a Sunday and got some of the cheese there and just walked around town. But it was just really, it was a fun bus ride and kind of a great little town, really authentic town. But El Tuito.
Okay, very good. Now I feel badly. I'm going to ask you, how about a 3-day trip? You ever go away for a weekend? You never have, or have you?
Well, we are going to if it's the last thing I do.
Okay, all right. We'll come back and
No, but
we'll
we want
find
to
out.
go to Guadalajara. We
Oh.
do want to go. We have a list, Manzanito, Guadalajara, Tequila Town, and San Miguel. Everybody has probably told us to go there, and we just have not quite made it.
All right. Well, you'll get there. I mean, you live here, for
Right.
goodness
And
sake.
we're also volunteering here sometimes 3, 4, 5 days a week. So, on the weekends we kind of just like to unplug a little bit and chill out. So,
Okay.
that's probably one of the reasons we haven't gotten too far out of town.
Yeah, understood. What would be your advice for a first-time visitor?
Depends on how long they're going to be here. But I will say...
Well, if it's a first-time visitor, they're on vacation.
Yeah,
They're here
right.
for maybe a week,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. So I do think, I go back to, experience the culture a little. But the one thing that is touristy, I still think is the best thing to do here that's so fun, because you get a boat ride in at sunset and a good meal and a show, is Rhythms of the Night. Like I always tell people, like, I know it's expensive, you came here because it's cheap, but that's definitely worth the money to go experience. And I would just say, don't stay in an all-inclusive. There's way too many good restaurants here to eat at your hotel every day. Like, just don't do it. Like, get out. And I would also say stay in Puerto Vallarta proper, more Old Town or Centro to have that experience.
Excellent. That's great advice. What about you?
I think that I would say, even though we have not been on it, I kind of feel like we've been on it indirectly, but the Vallarta food tours, where they go to, the different, really the different taco shops, and you kind of get a local flavor. Everybody who does it, says how great it is, and, it's a lot of food, but you get one kind of specialty from each person around town. So I think that if you're gonna come to Puerto Vallarta, at least do that, where you kind of get some of that local flavor, and the places you like, you go back and have dinner there. So do it early in the stay.
Yeah, and believe me, you'll like them all. So it's gonna be really hard to Is there anything I missed? Is there something that you want to talk about before we say goodbye today?
I guess, I would say this. I would want people to know, because I think people question, like, what happens at we call this a refuge, because interestingly enough, it's uncommon for children to be adopted here in Mexico in general, right? The laws are strict. There's a history of, for various reasons that children have been at risk. So adoption is a little more difficult. It requires family approval. It's a family culture. So these children live here, but then people are like, are they clean? Do they see doctors? Are their teeth like falling out? Like, seriously, people have the strangest vision about what happens in a place like this. I can tell you here, we have weekly doctor visits. If somebody's sick, they go to a hospital if it's needed. They have dental visits that are regularly scheduled. They have eye care. So they're kept well, not like, they're well up, but we are keeping an eye on them from a health standpoint, from education. And we have 3 psychologists that work with them. And, the mental health and stability is critical, and there's a good focus on that.
Good.
And I would also add about the community, if you want to talk about that, just how everybody steps up around this town. It's regardless if it's, Monson Brewery or Los Muertos Brewery, they'll donate pizzas. Monson does a monthly charity and donates money. Felipe's Massage donates shirts and, cakes. And when we walk by them, take this to the kids. Or, 360 Solar donates a percentage of the revenue. It's amazing. This community here is amazing. They're loving, giving, caring. So, I just, promote this town from all aspects. We could talk about the vision. First up, we have fundraisers. And if anybody's around in November, the Palm Cabaret is donating all the contributions from their opening night to Rise. So
nice.
Come that night. That will be fun, because it's a great show and it's a great cause. There's lots of those things that go on. So we do a number of fundraisers. Keep your eyes out for those signs and posters. From a vision standpoint, like, where do we see Rise? We think about it that ideally we will have an alumni of a family that grew up here, that are professionally educated or technically skilled, and mentally healthy and stable to support the Rise, to support Rise and let it continue on. And in that aspect, the vision is, we're trying to get more than a vision at this point, is to have an air, land, and sea institute where Right now, we're trying to partner with the Navy League of PV and the Mexican Navy to develop a naval cadet program. We're looking at potentially putting a restaurant on the Malecon so the kids could learn some hospitality skills. So those are the types of things, we see longer term. And I guess I would end it on that note.
Wow. All right. Well, that's a great vision.
Yeah.
And it's pretty exciting to see folks like you, especially picking up the mantle and going for it, and really helping these kids and dedicating your time. And I'm so impressed for what you guys do.
Yeah.
And I thank you for that. And I'm going to make sure that everybody knows, that they can do the same thing, right? They can come and do the same thing and give their time and their love and devote a little something, give back to the community. And I really appreciate what you do, really.
Yeah. Thank
Lisa.
you. Thanks.
Memo.
And I'll just add this, that we represent a good, group of volunteers that are here. So you're talking to us, but there's, a good 20 to 30 of us that, are here giving the love and care to these children.
All right, you hear that, you guys? So you guys can all join these nice folks along with the other 19 and really make a difference in these kids' lives. And thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. Weren't they great? Thank you so much, Lisa and Billy. I have their pictures, by the way, in the show notes. You got to check them out. Now, next, I interviewed Mother Leticia. They call her Mother Letty there. And she and I talked about what the shelter needs. We did the entire interview in Spanish. And then I had a chance to interview the lady who actually helped establish Refugio Infantil Santa Esperanza, RISE, the lady in charge. And her name is Madre Marie de Jesus, or as the folks at the shelter like to call her affectionately, Madre Marie. And so I actually asked both Madres the same questions when I interviewed both of them. And instead of playing both of the interviews, I am just going to play one that I had with Madre Marie. Now, of course, I was warned by JR that the Madres don't speak English there, and it never stops me. I mean, I can speak Spanish, and I do the interview in Spanish if I need to. But when I began to do the interview with Madre Marie, I started in Spanish, and then there was this gentleman there. His name was Eduardo Rencan Gallardo. And when I started interviewing the Madre, he got up and he started saying goodbye and walking away. And I'm like, where are you going? He says, well, I'm the translator. And since it looks like you don't need me, I'm going to go ahead and move on. And I'm like, whoa, a translator. Wait a minute. Whoa, just sit down. Translate for me, please, sit down. It just was so much easier for me, and it'll be easier for you guys too. And what a treat. I've never had a translator before. I felt so special. Anyway, once I got the hang of it, letting him do all the work, life was good. So let's go right now. Let's hear from one of the founders and the lady who is in charge over at RISE, Madre Marie de Jesus. Madre Marie. Mother Marie, gracias por hablando conmigo. Dígame, how long have you been here at this
¿Cuánto
at
tiempo
RISE?
lleva aquí en el refugio?
Tengo 18 años.
She's been here for the past 18 years.
Okay. So since it opened up, yes?
¿Desde que abrió?
El padre Luis y yo y otra hermana, junto con unos laicos, fuimos los fundadores.
Yeah, Padre Luis, Madre María, and otra madre,
Otra que ya, sí, pero no está aquí ahorita.
another sister were the founders.
They were the founders. Okay. And this was the original location?
¿Esta es la locación desde el principio?
Sí. Bueno, desde el principio yo estuve en otra casa hogar.
In
En
where was
Máximo
that?
Cornejo, yo estuve allá 7 años y medio.
¿Cuánto?
7 años y medio.
For 7 years and a half, she was at the Máximo Cornejo shelter.
Yo estuve allí. De allí nos vinimos y fundamos aquí.
From there, she
Independiente.
came here and founded Rise independently.
Excellent. All right. So you, along with others, were the founders. This is wonderful. So tell me what things you need most here at Rise.
¿Cuáles son las cosas que más se necesitan aquí en Rise?
Bueno, pues una institución de esta naturaleza, pues se necesitan muchas cosas, ¿verdad?
In an institute of this nature, many things are needed.
Pero pues en especialmente se ocupa dinero,
But especially we need cash
That's right.
porque pues hay muchas necesidades aquí
because there's lots of needs, different needs
de
here.
mantener pues la casa digna para los niños,
To maintain a dignified shelter for the kids,
la alimentación,
nourishment,
la educación, sobre todo.
education, most of all.
Pues también atenderlos con médicos, ¿verdad?
To have medical attention
Medical de diferente
each one of them.
tipo,
Different medical treatments
porque los niños vienen de familias desintegradas
because the children come from disintegrated homes
y vienen con muchas necesidades de todo tipo,
with great needs of all types.
y también pues darles una formación integral para
To give them
resumir
an integral formation
en todos los aspectos.
in all aspects of life.
Excellent. Excelente. When the girls and boys come here,
Cuando los niños y niñas llegan aquí,
what age are they and what age do they leave?
¿a qué edad entran y a qué edad deben salir?
Bueno, el perfil de
The
esta
profile
institución
of this institution
es niñas de 0
is girls from 0
a 12 años máximo.
to 12 years old, 12 to 12 years old maximum.
Niños de 0 a 10 años máximo.
Boys from 0 to 10 years maximum,
Porque es refugio infantil.
because it's a infantile shelter.
Pero en ese lapso de tiempo, pues tenemos que darle, así duren un mes, lo que sea, tenemos que ayudarlos en su desarrollo.
Though in whatever lapse of time they stay here, we must assist them with whatever they're coping with and help them out to start recovering.
Very good. When they leave,
Cuando ellos se van,
where do they go?
¿a dónde van?
Bueno, pues es que estos niños son canalizados por DIF. Entonces, porque vienen de familias desintegradas.
These children are channeled to us by the government organization DIF for the help of our families.
Nuestro objetivo es ayudarlos para que se reintegren nuevamente a la familia.
And our job is to form them in a way that they can be reintegrated to their families.
Y pues mientras no sucede eso, pues aquí están.
While that doesn't happen, well, that's when we're in charge of them.
Uh-huh. Very good. Muy bien. As far as things that you need the most,
En cuanto a las cosas que necesitan más,
I'm understanding it's money
entiendo que es dinero,
and
También cosas como víveres,
like food staples,
ropa, calzado
clothing, shoes,
y pues también a veces apoyos
sometimes the support,
de voluntarios
volunteer support.
como ellos. Muy buenos elementos.
sí.
Ellos dos.
Mhm.
Son
like
muy
Billy
buenos
and Lisa.
voluntarios. Se
Very good
preocupan
elements.
mucho, hacen las cosas bien,
They
son muy
are very concerned.
discretos,
They're discreet. They behave.
que también se necesita eso,
We need
que
that.
tengan el perfil.
That they fit the profile
Yes, I
of
get that.
disinterested volunteers.
Yeah, interesting.
Y que sepan español.
And for them to know some Spanish as well.
La
Yeah.
comunicación es muy importante porque luego se distorsiona el mensaje.
Communication is so important because if not, then the message gets distorted and rude.
Yes, exactly. And when you have kids, that's important to have open communication.
Y cuando se tienen niños es importante tener una comunicación
Sí,
muy abierta.
sobre todo con los niños pequeños.
Mainly with small kids.
Ajá.
All right.
Y por ejemplo, pues
As an example,
en la casa se necesita mantenimiento
shelter also needs maintenance.
porque todo se deteriora,
Everything wears down,
más tratándose de niños.
mainly when you have kids in the house.
Yeah.
Se necesita a veces arreglar muebles, pintar paredes,
Must paint
comprar
walls.
muebles nuevos,
Fix furniture, buy new furniture,
arreglar los jardines y
fix the
que
gardens.
eso es muy importante, la naturaleza, o sea, las áreas verdes,
It's very important to preserve the green areas, nature, greenery.
mantenerlas en buen estado.
Keep them in
Y para eso también se necesita. A veces que venga
in good
algún
shape.
jardinero a plantar más plantas,
Must have a gardener to plant more flowers and trees and
porque pues,
plants.
no tenemos jardinero, ahí nosotros hay lo que
We
podemos.
don't have a gardener, so we make do with what little we know about it.
Luego los vehículos también ya están bien deteriorados.
Our cars, the van and the pickup that we used to buy to bring foodstuffs and take out the garbage, take the kids to school and back. Well, they wear and tear. They need maintenance as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Sí,
for
y
sure.
sobre todo porque transportan niños.
Mainly because it's
Entonces
transportation
la
for
seguridad de ellos es muy
kids. Safety
importante.
is of utmost importance.
All right. ¿Hay algo más que quiere que decir a mis oyentes? Is there something else you want to say to my listeners?
Algo más que le quiera decir a las gentes que se refieren a Puerto Vallarta Travel Show para saber información.
Pues que cuando vengan nos visiten para que nos conozcan.
When
Son
they come to
bienvenidos.
Vallarta, they should come visit, get to know us. They'll be welcome.
Excellent. Muchísimas gracias por hablando conmigo.
Bueno, igualmente muchas gracias por venir y por tener interés por esta institución,
Likewise,
por
thanks for coming.
preferirnos a nosotros.
And thanks for your interest in what we're doing and coming to visit.
You're very welcome. Gracias otra vez.
De nada.
So sweet. So sweet. I have to tell you that this lady runs this place like a champ. I mean, there were a couple of times where she'd look out in the courtyard. You know, when the kids got back from school, they were all interested in what we were doing. And sometimes she would look out into the courtyard during the interview, and she would look at me and say, "Can I get up?" And then she would put the microphone down, and she'd go out and take care of some misbehaving child, and then she'd come back and sit down for the interview. I got a note from Lisa after the interview, and it read, "Thank you so much for taking the time to make a podcast for Rise. You were really great with the Madres. It was so fun to see them interviewed. It may be one of my favorite memories from this season. They were so cute. Usually they have a more stern personality due to the continuous need to discipline 30 children, and they are impressive. We really enjoyed meeting you. We had fun too. So glad that you were there when the children came home from school. You saw all aspects, the homework, playtime in the courtyard, even the little infant." So yeah, that was great. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for that note. I really enjoyed meeting you guys too. And I took lots of pictures of the inside of Rise, so you need to go take a look at those in the show notes so you won't wonder what it's like there. There are no pictures of children, though. That was not allowed due to the nature of, them actually being there, if you know what I mean. I have links for their Facebook page where you can contact them and you can come and arrange to come visit, or better yet, make a commitment if you can and volunteer some days while you are spending time in paradise. When I talk about volunteer days, this is for people who are spending months at a time in Puerto Vallarta. Come on, check it out. You won't be sorry. Also, of course, I've got a link to their website where you can find out more about them. You can set up a donation plan in order to help them keep the place up and running. And again, I want to thank Lisa and Billy for helping me set up the entire interview. And thanks for being so sweet and so caring and giving to these sweet kids. Maybe you too have a place in your hearts and in your lives for these kids who really need you. So think about it, will you? Okay. Well, that should do it for this week. Next week, stay tuned for more on-the-ground reports from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, with travel tips, great restaurant and excursion ideas, and more. But until then, remember that this is an interactive show where I depend on your questions and suggestions about all things Puerto Vallarta. That's you, Skip. Thank you so much, Skip. And if you think of something that I should be talking about, then please reach out to me by clicking on the Contact Us tab and sending us your message. And remember, if you're considering booking any type of tour while you're in Puerto Vallarta, you must go to vallartainfo.com. That's JR's website, and reserve your tour through him right from his website. Remember, this is a value-for-value proposition, my friends. His experience and on-the-ground knowledge of everything Puerto Vallarta in exchange for your making a purchase of a tour that you do anyway. You're just doing it through him as a way of saying thank you. Thanks, JR, for being our guide. It costs no more than if you were going to use someone else, so just do it, really. And when you do take one of those tours, email me about your experiences. Maybe you can come on board and share with others what you liked or didn't like about the tour. Again, contact me by clicking on the Contact Us tab and sending off a message. And don't forget, JR's got his maps, his DIY tours, his revitalized happy hour board, and more. And I have links to all of those in my show notes, so go there. And once again, if you like this podcast, then please take the time and subscribe and give me a good review on iTunes or wherever you happen to be listening to the podcast. That way we can get the word out to more and more people about the magic of this place, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Remember, I made it easy for you to do just that with every episode I create. But if you haven't been to my website, you really need to have a look there. I have links to the places we talk about. I have interesting pictures and more right there in my blog posts and in the show notes for each episode show that I create. So check them out for sure, all right? Hey, listen, I don't have any pop-ups. I don't have any crazy stuff. I'm not selling anything on this site. It's a great site, so go check it out if you haven't already, all right? All right. Hey, thanks to you, Lisa Manugian, and thank you so much, Billy Pulaski. Thanks for what you do. Thanks for sharing with all of us. And thank you, Madre Marie. Thanks for taking the time out of your very busy day. And thanks for talking with me and all my listeners. Listen, folks, get over to Rise. See what it's all about. I have maps and I have links and pictures. So come on, check them all out. And thanks again to all of you for listening all the way through this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. This is Barry Kessler signing off with a wish for all of you to slow down, be kind, and live the Vallarta lifestyle. Nos vemos, amigos.
Samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de amor junto al mar. playa, me encuentro junto al río, cuando todo está en calma, pronto cae la noche, me brillas Puerto Vallarta, samba de Puerto